Welcome to the Real Deals. Demonology Today episode, Ask a Demonologist. What do you think, dear? I just built this tonight. Hammer and nails, the whole 9 yards.
I'm not crowned yet, honey. I haven't earned it. Can we, take it down?
I think I'm feeling a little claustrophobic. Let me take this down while we do the intro here real quick. It goes now. Tonight, is it a special edition or is it not? It's Ask a Demonologist, questions and answers presented live to us. And we have Michael Norton coming along shortly with us tonight to help bear the load of the commentary, at least on the world news. And appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. No time like the present, so don't forget, ask your questions as the show goes on. We're going to try to copy and paste them.
Michael's there. He says he's here. You got to call him.
Oh, okay. It rolls so fast in the chats and everything, so we got to keep an eye on that tonight, don't we? And I think that we have, and oh, wait a minute, how's this? How do I know? Okay. Are you there? Mike, are you there? That's so weird.
Hello,
Here we
hello.
go. We
Here we are.
have him.
There I am.
Oh,
You got
my
to turn down too low.
What's that? Yeah, let me try something here. It's just the mic was acting up.
Oh, that's quite
Yeah.
all right. You know what? My dear sweet, pushed mine all the way back so it doesn't even reach me now. How exciting is that?
It doesn't?
No, it doesn't reach me now.
Why not?
Because you pushed it over.
Huh?
You pushed it over.
Oh, what?
That is all the way over there, another 6 inches. But we don't need to talk about this
Oh,
on
okay.
air.
Okay, here we go. Technical issues in the Deel studio.
People just aren't interested in our technical little bibble babble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's
last
why my
week.
little Ken,
Use the last week.
this
It's
is
the
not
same-
the time. Okay, this is
it's
not
in
the
the same
Ethel and Fred
position.
show. We're not going to go over this for 500 hours. Okay.
All right.
Okay, you got my phone.
Yes, it's time for news.
News
And
for
noisy
what?
technology. We have a friend who's a priest who co-authored a few books. He's very diverse on spiritual warfare, we'll just say, in the least. Authored some books. And he was telling this interesting story that he goes to a Civil War reenactment every year. And they do it full uniform. Very realistic. It'd be good for... I'm sure they had a documentary on this. It's a National Historic Park in Middletown, Virginia. Cedar Creek. Anybody familiar with this? Maybe it's like one of these hot spots for audio EVPs. It's... Oh, okay. It's like, what the heck? Their camera's out. It was an interesting weekend because somebody found a pipe bomb that's triggered by movement. It used that mercury kind of switch that you have on your old Honeywell thermostats. And as we see here, Fredericks County, Virginia, the FBI source told that an item first appeared to be a pipe bomb was located on the grounds of Cedar Creek and Belle Grove National Park in Middleton, Virginia. This happened during a Civil War reenactment just some days after the group received several threats. This is because of this nutty statue stuff that people just won't leave the history as is. They gotta take the X-Acto blade and cut the old wounds open. Like, enough people didn't die in the Civil War on both sides as it is. The right side and the wrong side. We can't forget what America went through on that, and having the statues up of all those Democrats that they're defacing, or a reminder that we should never revisit slavery,
Exactly.
for example. So on Saturday, October 14th, the device was located on the grounds. The device was located during the annual reenactment of the Battle of Cedar Creek. I guess it's a reenactment of, the accounts of that area. No person was harmed. The device was rendered safe by the Virginia State Police. Well, so what do they mean? Did they activate it?
Basically.
Maybe they're lightening this up because we know the person that was there, of course, and they were there for an additional 2-3 days. It was safe afterwards because they removed it, and they told them that it was mercury activated. That if somebody picked it up, it would have blown up. So look at that. This is from whatever news agency. It's probably from the AP wire, you know, where you just go back there and the AP tells you all what to say, moo, moo, all of the cattle. But I love the way they kind of like lighten this up as though, oh, it was probably just your imagination. It was probably just a pipe. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the sock stuffed in it, and they're all kind of stupid. So what do you guys think of this one here? Farah, you were there to hear the good father tell us that story. Not surprising, though, especially on that side of the country.
You know, having done reenactments for years as an Irish tinker and being around a lot of people that love a lot of big things that go boom, and when you're around these kind of people, they know how to handle munitions and explosives. So to find a pipe bomb, I'm sure they didn't have any trouble disabling it. Disturbing? Yes. Yeah. I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think it's a sign of our times that there's unhappy people, and I think the more unhappy people are coming out of the closet, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mike, your comments. Sounds like Mike Vader. What's the breathing sound?
Yeah. I would have used a Death Star, not a bomb.
She's happy, Mike.
I don't know, this is going crazy lately. You know, with the history stuff, it's like, why they want to destroy history or erase it? I mean, we understand that this Civil War was about the blemish of slavery. Mm-hmm. I don't know why people are getting freaked out about the
I agree.
The piece of history, like the statues and stuff. We're not being white supremacist about it. That's a reminder there for a horrible time in history.
Yeah,
I agree.
And it's like both sides fighting, so it's not like it's all the Confederates, you know, reenacting the day they murdered a bunch of people or something. It's both sides fighting. It's a memorial in a certain sense, and I mean, some anti-war people might, I don't know. It's really over the top. I guess they assume that they're all going to be, a particular party or persuasion. Who knows? But it looked like they were all colors, creeds, shapes, and political affiliations, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. So that's how stupid these domestic terrorism groups are now, even if they act independently. Oh, I guess there's not much to add on that, but I thought that was a little interesting tidbit. I remember last year he called us up and he was on the way, and we talked a little bit because he's got to drive down to this location for a couple hours and had some time to kill. Okay, this one is. So I'll throw this one in here. There's something about, like the Exorcist, the Rite has been re-released. And as far as I know, it's already out there in English. I don't know if it was the original notes from the bishop who basically compiled a lot of notes on the fly when he was dealing with the exorcism of Nicole Aubrey that happened in 80 years after the Protestant Reformation. With that famous good versus evil, but there's supposed to be some sort of kind of a documentary film, anyway, with this exorcist here, I suppose, and it's called Deliver Us, which premieres in the UK and Europe on October 27th, was nominated for our European Film Awards. Well, it's nominated. Compelling look at the efforts of priests in Sicily to keep up on the increasing global demand for the church-sanctioned exorcisms. When is this going to show up, and is it going to be in Italian?
Good question.
Yeah, a lot of good movies in Italian, didn't there, Farah? Remember some of these ones? Didn't we watch like one of the Apostles movies lately, and it was made in Italy?
Yes, overdubbed.
Yeah, whatever that country. Well, we know what the country is. Whatever the company, they made a bunch of them, like Story of Ruth and some of these others. But I don't know why this part isn't here. Why the church keeps no central database for the number of people asking for exorcisms? Well, that's for sure. Neither do we. The number of times it performs, Italians are reported to seek the Rite on a more regular basis than dental appointments. Well, yeah, I believe it. It's just that's going on pretty much in the United States too. But to what degree, I don't know. We're a little bit behind now. And at one time, it felt like we're behind in technology when you go check out these super trains that they got in Europe. But now we're behind on the whatever's going on, debauchery that's going on all over Europe, and I guess exorcisms is no exception there. Oh my gosh! Comments from Farah or Michael J. Norton.
I don't know, this could be an interesting movie when it comes out, because it looks like when I was reading through this, it was actually filmed by somebody maybe a skeptic. Mm-hmm. But through the eyes, she made a comment on this, and I read it earlier that she saw there was good exorcists and there was bad exorcists. And I thought, wow, there was more of an eye to that than she was showing. Mm-hmm. She tried to prove that a lot of this stuff was all psychological and the exorcist didn't understand what they're looking at. But I was kind of interested in what she thought what a good exorcist was and how she presents it.
Yeah, good exorcist and bad exorcist. What do you think? A bad exorcist? Well, that's when it throws it right there. You could say, well, there's good and there's ones that are not so great. Like the guy who answers his cell phone during the middle of an exorcism. It's like, hold on, okay, what? All right. So, quart of milk, yeah, okay. I mean, they actually said that in the right, and that's supposed to be true, as I've told the listeners before. If you talk candidly to Father Gary Thomas, who the movie The Right was supposed to be about his life, and also Father Vince Lampert, who was there at the training, we'll say, during the same time period. Not the same time. They were left in there, and it was the same priest. And he'll answer the phone right in the middle of an exorcism and then say, excuse me, and leave you sitting there with a possessed woman as a new priest. Yeah, or, in this case, it was a woman for both of them. And you're just sitting there with them staring you down, the battle of the...
I know that's one thing we always did, like we were doing group prayers of deliverance. Yeah. It's that silence your cell phones, because every time we had a manifestation, the cell phones would go off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, stuff like that, we're going to be putting the archives up at some point in another for these interviews, and we'll put them on youtube.com, The Real Deals and Planet Paranormal. DemonologyToday.PlanetParanormal.com. The Gary Thomas interviews, we have 2 of them, and I think we have 2 Father Forteas also. And they're an hour each. So we'll look into that. Kind of weird getting used to not having headphones on. I got the earpiece in like a Secret Service agent. We need to get those little curly cord ones there, Farah, so we look like secret agents or something. What's that? Okay. You cover the back door. The Exorcist film. Now for more disturbing
Dawn
news.
had a great question.
Sure.
She's in our live stream. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, you guys. And hey to Dave and Dude, Michael, and Rosalie. Thank you all for joining us tonight. She had a really good question. This has come up recently among the talk with some of the exorcists and the priests that we know. Mm-hmm. And Dawn had a question for us asking, wouldn't it be easier for an exorcist just to learn Latin? Wouldn't that make him more comfortable with the rite? And what we're finding, hi Laura, hi Patricia, hi Lucy, hi Ern, we're finding out for current priests that's already been through seminary, and Latin is part of their studies. For them to go through and learn another language, our ease of learning capability for a foreign language is between 0 and 4. Anytime after 4 years of age, we really have to apply ourselves to pick it up. So to ask a priest, to actually learn the inflection, learn the meter of how the language is spoken, and to comprehend and write this is a little bit much. So it's daunting for a priest. And the Vatican actually came out and said that it's much easier for the priest to have available in their hands the full rite, the minor and major, in English, so that if they feel they can't, or they don't have the time, they can't apply themselves to learn the Latin, it's actually easier for them to do it in their native language. So if their native language is Spanish or Italian, it's okay for them, they can definitely say it in Latin. The connection is that priests feel more comfortable when they're praying something they know what they're saying. And they found that people that are being prayed over, consequently, they just feel better that somebody that they know and trust is taking care of the situation. They don't care if it's Latin or English, just pray, please. So that's what we found out. Anything to add, boys?
Mr. Mike?
No, I think the Latins should be the way to go with this thing. I know when I was talking to Father Gary, he have a Latin translation or something when he found his English one off the internet. But no, I think just for the rite itself, I think it should be conducted like a mass in Latin. Besides that, Americans don't speak Latin, and I think it's also a great indicator when somebody's messing with you, because you could just say something that's not a deliverance prayer, liberation prayer in Latin, and see if you get a manifestation. Go, okay, this person's messing with you, or something mental's going on. So I kind of lean towards keeping Latin in these situations.
Yeah, and it's a difficult language too. It's not like learning Spanish or Italian, some other forms of Latin. It's very tricky. I mean, some people when they first learn Spanish, they're like, "What's this masculine and feminine stuff?"
Right.
Yeah, it's and for some reason, it's like this is an Ask a Demonologist question too, because it's been in the past, not necessarily on the show, and that is why the demons seem to respond more to Latin. And we came up with that. It's the old language. It's the church. It's the language of the church. It's a sacramental in itself. Just like holy water, holy oil, that sort of thing. It's the language. So, and the English thing became comfortable for us, and they don't teach it in the seminary unless you ask special. And they also don't teach, of course, spiritual warfare unless you do your own special side studies, or you're appointed by your bishop, and then they'll send you for the training at some point. Usually not in the seminary. I think they want to observe to see what kind of priest you are when you reach the, that level where you're ordained. But that's a good question. Keep them coming through, because we'll take them throughout the show, just to let you know. And don't forget, you can watch us in the chat room on demonologytoday.com. Listen live in chat. That's our old radio show format. Now it's the real deals, and we're still covering the topics that we know best. And some other interesting things, Farah. You're at some point going to do a lot more even than that, aren't you?
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Let's. There's another question about that's very, I think, important to address here as far as our experience. And Mike, I'd like you to chime in on this. Is our fabulous, mellifluous, lovely model Dawn Emler. I got some great pictures, and I will post them, honey. She has a question. Is the rite itself, is it more powerful spoken, and prayed in Latin? And from what we've seen, hands down, 1,000 times. And why is that? Jesus spoke Aramaic. There was, and I think it goes to, a lot of people don't like the word authority, because we all have difficulty with authority, and nobody wants to, give up their authority. When the church established itself, there's a lot of jostling with the disciples at the beginning of the church, and they had to come up with common ground. They had to come to a table. They had to have a common language that everybody could understand and they could preach with, and everybody preached in their own language at first. They didn't have a choice, because they were going to different regions of the area, different regions of the world. Some, were Jewish, some were Nigerian. They were all over the place. Carthusians, Carpathians, everywhere. So I'm not sure if it was, Mike, you're probably going to have to help me out here, if it was just before the first council, First Nicene Council, they decided that, this was the language everybody in the Roman, because Rome ruled just about all of Eurasia, and Rome had holdings everywhere. So that's why I think that Latin basically became the main seat of the Holy Catholic Church, because everybody spoke it, along with other languages.
Was that the first or second council? The one
I don't remember. That's what I was thinking. Maybe Michael Google it real quick and find out.
I don't retain history information.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I can't fix anything with it. I can't remember either, so I guess that one's up
but
in the air.
But basically, from our experience,
topic.
Latin, when we pray in Latin, when we do, the saints in Latin, if for some reason or another, you get the reactions a heck of a lot quicker than you just go ahead and get everybody saying it in English. I don't know what it is, but they don't like it at all.
I guess it's just the opposite too. That people said, why do they seem to prefer to speak in Latin? I mean, we've seen this in movies, because it is true in accounts. It's been spoken backwards. That was The Exorcist, and it's been when it's spoken forward, people don't understand it a lot of times, and it's a very clear dialect that the priest understands it. Who and a lot of exorcists will know Latin, and maybe for that reason too, Farah. And you say, why did the demons do this? I think it's the same reason they like mocking in number 3. You know, the Holy Trinity to 3 p.m., the time that Jesus died on the cross, that he is ascended into heaven at 3 p.m. and those significant things. I think it's another thing. It's like I said, it's become a sacramental of the church.
It is.
And they had to pick a language. And one of the other things too that's interesting is if I say Joshua instead of Jesus, Mike, and this is a good question too, and Farah, that's not ancient. That's ancient Arabic in its source. It's not Latin. It's not ancient
Aramaic.
Aramaic. Okay. So, whenever that's said, would it still have the same effect? You know, saying Yahshua. In the name of Yahshua, I bind you at the foot of the cross of Jesus. And then will it stop demonic activity? Will it affect it? I can't say. Maybe there's somebody out there who's had a true demonic case and hammered it with that, and then another case hammered it with Jesus' name. Interesting thing about Father Chad Rippinger, God bless him, the exorcist, is he makes a comparison saying that that communion, and we know this from another source, from experience and so forth, the communion that comes from the Latin rite is just as, in other words, the old Mass or the Latin Trinity Mass, and what they call the Novus Ordo, some of them, or the modern today Mass, is just as effective as the communion consecrated at the old rite. And it says a lot of things, but I think it's a little interesting side note. But yeah, we definitely had found that Latin packs more of a punch. Kind of like, maybe even as much as, say, when you use blessed water and exorcise water, with the exorcism done on it first, maybe it's as much of a difference that or more. It's hard to say. Somewhere some bored person somewhere may be making research notes on that. Oh, if we move on, we can continue to get questions as we go on, so feel free to add them at any time. In the chat room or in the live stream on Facebook in the comments section. It rolls really fast, so you guys are going to be fast. And Deb is on assignment tonight. And apparently so is Chris.
Well, okay, Deb's got grandbabies. Chris has little wee babies. It's like, we've got the tweens, okay? We got the teen things. I mean, they've got the kids that are just like, oh, let's go see this, let's go see that. So it's like it's still the excitement time.
Yeah. It's the real deals minus 2 of them that are sometimes in our lineup. But Deb, she's been with us forever. Ever and ever.
And we're not letting her go anywhere ever.
Yeah. This is kind of a funny case here. It's just like you initially look at this and it says
that was really bizarre.
Reporter buys 2 human heads.
How does that happen?
And then you read on and it just turns out they're just buying it for like charity donation or something.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, no, it's like with 2 failing kidneys and a hole in his heart. Boy, he died after a heart attack on his way home from dialysis. Poor kid.
Oh, how awful.
Too poor to bury or cremate him. Cody's parents donated their son's body to an organization called Restore Life USA. And it gets a bit unholy, though. And I mean, remember the old stories about the Headless Horseman? Those are actually coming from magistrates that tried to account for what happened with those stories. They're not just from people that are just nutty job folklore people. That there has been, such as the Screaming Skull case, when the body is separated into pieces, especially the head, that you will get some hauntings and so forth. The Screaming Skull case, if you might remember, it's just a famous one, like the Bell Witches, that they put the head in some sort of glass case, and they would wake at night hearing this eerie kind of whining sound, and found the skull vibrating at a high frequency, like it was like, ooh. I don't know. I mean, I think we've all, well, I don't know about all of us, heard that kind of sound before, and it makes your skin crawl. And so they returned the head with the body, and the haunting ended. But it was happening every night. And so that's the Screaming Skull story. But there's something unholy about separating the body parts. I don't want to get into Planned Parenthood either, but that they need to be a proper burial, and all the parts the person should be buried as possibly can. Sometimes in horrible combat or burned houses or whatever, you can, in a way, they're cremated, aren't they? But
pretty awful.
Yeah. How much of the morbid, can we handle on this kind of stuff?
I don't know. That's pretty awful.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
I don't want to get into too much of the detail on that one. Because it goes on and it starts talking about, the how they died, the 2 kids and stuff like that. But I just think what are you going to do with those heads? Did you know that it's illegal to have a human head? I mean, if you have one and you don't have, they give you something that basically is going to certify that you bought this head from so-and-so institute, and you're supposed to hold on to it because you could call it a human skull. You can face, jail time or something like that. It's illegal. And someone should have told that guy you can't collect body parts who had that morgue, and he looks like Mike Reno from Loverboy. Yeah. You remember the horrible case about the pogo sticks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. A little too much information.
I'm so glad I missed it. It was over my head. I am just a child.
I love a mystery. Scooby-Doo wouldn't touch it.
I am just a child.
You know what? I couldn't find this video, and because it was so interesting and it was very short, I was going to play without sound so you don't have to listen to a person like, okay, now if I do this, I was just going to play the last part of it. I was going to edit it, and I was going to play about 20 seconds sound without sound and just loop it. There's some discrepancies, an awful lot. You read around the web with this Vegas shooter thing, and you see this on the neck there? Looks like there's a number 13. As soon as you know to look for it, it's right there. It's on his throat. And you look at the other pictures of him, he has no tattoo number 13. Some people make the reference of MS-13. But it looks like a prison tattoo, and I was telling my wife
bizarre.
that. Yeah, there's a missing 13 on this picture there below, which is an earlier picture. He has one with that girlfriend who thought he was a great guy, by the way, and that he didn't have the tattoo in there. Yes. So when did he go in prison, get one of these cheap tattoos in the least? Well, he has no prison record of such. Remember, he's getting all of these credentials or whatever you call it. What was some of these government things going on, just like the Orlando shooter, too? This is weird about it. How would you get government clearance and some of this stuff? But I thought that was an interesting tidbit. First time I heard about it, it's like, yeah, I was wondering what that was. It's like, what is that? But, we were talking last week, the strange thing, and this will get us, again, yellow demonetized on YouTube. You know how they're trying to crush the fake news, or whatever.
Whatever.
Why don't you stifle MSNBC, CNN, and all the other ones? They got at least as much fake news.
Okay, just play it.
Yeah. But this one's we didn't have the picture up last week, but think about this are you looking at a guy who's drunk, or is he dead? And that was the idea. When you look at the picture, it starts to give you the creeps. They actually lightened it up a little bit, but there's a weird thing why does he have one, and this picture doesn't show it, his hand that holds the drink, and he wasn't a drinker, and he certainly didn't get drunk.
That was the worst.
He has his one sleeve rolled all the way down with a ribbon around it, supposedly. And
we know he wasn't walking for breast cancer, ladies.
Right.
Well, there you go. It's totally rolled up, right past the elbow, and there's hairy arm holding the drink up to his mouth.
That was scary, too.
Like he's going to take a sip, but he looks like he's totally unconscious.
That doesn't look like him at all.
People have analyzed the photo closer and realized there's Photoshop anomalies, where you montage people and, like, you put yourself in with a celebrity, and, people are going to start doing that with Lorraine Warren at some point, and Malachi Martin, and us, right? You ever, Mike, who knows? And they found discrepancies in there, and they were disturbing. The pixelations, difference in sizes and that sort of things. And the way hair is really hard to do. One guy was talking about, if you find it. I saved it. I'll provide the link. I don't know, next week if we get any interest on it.
Good.
When you have hair and it's kind of messed up, you can't just like Photoshop cut it out and then drop it in very easy. You ended up with this kind of like fuzzy, kind of feathered kind of thing, trying to get it in there.
Well, not only that, there's tools out there they could have bought that would fix this. This is just a cruddy Photoshop job.
Well, that's just it. It looks like a rush job.
Yeah.
It looks like an amateur rush job.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I'm surprised it took me 2 or 3 looks to like go. There's something wrong with that guy. He's not alive.
Yeah.
He's not all there. You look at his other pictures and you can tell. Also, another thing too. Okay, if you've never seen a dead body in a morgue, people, or if you've never come upon a dead body, hours later, or even an hour or 2 later, the blood starts settling. And if you look at this guy's flesh, if you look at this picture, you can see the blood is already going to where he's laying. So in other words, if he was on his face when he died and he was left that way, his face would be beet red. But if you can look at this guy's skin, it's like all the blood is like starting to go to gravity. It's all going down. It's going away. It's going to where he was when he hit the floor, when he dropped.
Yeah, it's really creepy when you
It's
look
just-
at that Photoshop thing.
It's just not pretty.
Mm-hmm. We're
And
supposed to assume he's an old
It's
guy.
awful that they think that we're going to accept
that's
it and
why.
think, oh yeah, that looks like he's drinking.
Yeah, I should have put the other picture up with that. This
Well, but Jennifer brings up something about rigor mortis. Rigor mortis only lasts so long. You can pose the body after rigor mortis, honey. It doesn't last that long.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those rare things. Everybody thinks when you die, you lock up. You do for a little bit, but as soon as
could have
those
been embalmed
bacteria
already.
starts breeding
Yeah.
again, boy, we can just move you like a Gumby doll.
It's Weekend at Bernie's right there. Yeah.
Exactly, it is Weekend at Bernie's, and he's not.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I can't believe we watched that
so
when
bad. That's so bad, people.
we were younger. Yeah, I knew a guy that kind of reminded me of Weekend at Bernie's guy, and I'd call him Weekend at Bernie's. Hey, Weekend at Bernie's. You'd show up at the club or whatever in the 80s.
Hi, Al Silvestri. Al said hi. I had to say hi to him.
Hey, Al.
So yeah, what we really want to bring out about bringing this video to you so you can look at it and point out what we notice about it, because I've been around dead bodies, I've been around morgues, I've been around situations like this. I've also been around people that are so drugged out that they kill themselves and they get brought back. I've been around people that have been drugged to where they stay in a coma for a few days. This guy isn't normal. So we're trying to, as the show just tries to open your eyes, asks you to look, ask questions, consider a different truth. We're not trying to say, hey, this is our theory, this is our truth, or whatever about this guy. We're just saying, hey, we're asking questions.
Yeah.
I think you ought to, too. There's a lot here that nobody is seeing, nobody is knowing, and, hey, we may never know. I just think it's important that if we're all going to be aware of where our next bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes coming from, let's look at the person serving it and make sure we know what's in the milk, what's in the bowl, and what they just painted those Rice Krispies with before you eat them.
Yeah, for life, and when
Yeah,
you're doing
just-
what we do,
It's so crazy.
you have to be more like a police detective than anything else. I know people still got that scientific kind of thing. No, you're not going to use science to get it. You have to listen to interviews and watch people and conclude, to determine psychological from spiritual. In other words, mental from possession, for example. And those are the things you're going to deal with more. You're not going to deal with, is it scientific? I mean, sometimes you do when it's a house. And you remember that story with George C. Scott, the Changeling?
Oh, yes.
And they
One of
had
my
that
favorite
banging,
movies.
and it turned out the banging sound was the boy. It was like a reenactment of his murder,
it's just ridiculous.
which is a purgatory scenario. And someone could say those are the furnace pipes kicking on in a big house. I mean, you need the scientific, I guess, but you can get all of the information and data from interviewing the people properly, and you don't even have to investigate those other claims, because the footprints may add up, and you may have red flag, we have a demon in this house, without actually going in there and have to analyze everything on a scientific level. You can save yourself a lot of time.
Yes.
Of course, it's not as much fun for all you people about all the gadgets. Speaking of which, we know what that's like, to buy all these gadgets and you don't get to use them.
I used to have a cattle prod, too. And it never quite registered the same on everybody I poked with it.
Yeah.
Different tools, tools react differently in different situations. Was it accurate all the time? No.
You probably had it hanging on your belt at the clubs.
No, that was my handcuffs, honey. I wanted them to think that I was serious, and they left me alone.
Got cheap got cheap handcuffs. They could leave them like that.
Oh, no.
And not worry about the handcuffs.
No, honey. I knew SEALs and police officers. No, I didn't play that.
And we can cover a little bit about this.
Poor guy. Oh my gosh, Ken.
I know that, they
It's
feel
like,
the need.
oh my gosh, poor Christopher Sampson be throwing holy water at the screen right now.
Yeah.
He'd be like, get that out of here. Get that heck out of
One of
here.
the reasons we're probably demonetized on YouTube is because of, maybe they
We
like
don't
Satanism
like to
too
play
much.
dress up.
Well, maybe too. But the mix on this thing is, why Satanism? What's the deal with them trying to force their way into the mainstream by mixing themselves and other, controversial cultures or recent, trending cultures or whatever it be? And that's what I see going on here. I see them riding coattails because this is just getting over the top. This is a Satanist. And they had two of them show up at the Michelle Obama Neighborhood Library in Long Beach. Host a drag queen, and I love the names that these Satanists pick. This is the kind of names they pick. Akshi Machi, It's like Malachi. I like that name, too. I am Malachi of the Arctic Forces. You ever see Chris Rock? Not Chris Rock. Who's that one I was talking about lately?
Not
Farah?
Chris Rock.
Chris Farley.
Or Chris Farley.
You ever see him do that thing when they were doing with Chris Kattan and one of these gal sidekicks from the old Saturday Night Live, and they're doing goth talk, and then then Chris Farley comes in there on this video Skype call or something, and
We're so holy water.
he's talking like he's some sort of high lord of the Arctic Arctok, whatever, something like that. And he's talking like he's like some demon wannabe, and it's just so laughable. And Chris Kattan with that strange, menacing Joker-like grin. It's just even worse when he's got that, goth makeup on and everything. But this went on Saturday, and they had a video out of it too. And he was reading from a book that promotes the, that type of lifestyle. Did it have Satanism,
That's
tones
just
and rings in there?
bizarre.
I don't know. I had to check out the book itself or whatever. But the fact is, they're still trying to ride the coattail on some controversial thing such as this, and that's why they probably wanted us to make news. So we're actually promoting and propagating their ministry and their goals. Oh no, I guess we better stop talking about it. Oh, perhaps we should, but not before Chris makes a comment. I mean, Chris. Okay, let me dial. Chris.
How can you forget the Van Halen belt as
Chris,
opposed
right,
to the
he's not gonna be on
monastery?
the show. I forgot the Van Halen belt is the only one we got today on the show for commentaries. But Michael, what do you think about this?
What is your Stardust? How does it drop tonight?
Oh, on that drag queen? Oh my gosh.
Satanic
I got drag queen
queen.
stories, but I can't share them here without getting us in trouble. But anyway.
Okay, all right.
But at least that one's portraying what's inside her.
Dance around the dust.
That's exactly it.
In
But,
the dust.
it's amazing how the Satanists always go out of their way to portray how they love children and not do anything to them.
Yeah.
And yet you get to real Satanists, I can't go any further than this, right? I can't finish the sentence. But it's just, it's whoever's doing this marketing. It's Lucifer. Who is it? They're genius, right?
Yeah.
And then these people bring them in. Oh, look, they're safe, they're friendly because they're different. It's a different lifestyle. They sacrifice children. And they do horrible things to them.
Oh, you remember that? They don't put that out there in the more friendly post Aleister Crowley. We'll just say Anton LaVey. That was the most friendly Satanist version. After Manson family.
Right. God.
But yeah, you're right. They're trying to make it child friendly. Like, Goat Boy likes you for dinner.
So we could be at your elementary school teaching your children. See how friendly we read books to you.
I can't believe people are so stupid. I mean, Satanism's more
Right.
evil than any of these old Democrats. They used to, fight for, against slavery. For slavery in the Civil War. They're destroying all their statues, and they're leaving what's the name of it? Bile Fett, whatever, Boba Fett.
Boba Fett?
What do they call that?
Are you talking about my diet again? Mama Fat?
What do they
The
call?
heck?
What do they call that goat boy again? Veo.
Oh, the Baphomet. The Baphomet?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh
So
my
they got
Do
his-
we have to say
Hey,
the name
Boba
on the
Fett.
radio, you guys?
They got his statue in Oklahoma and now in Michigan. with the kids around it, unveiled, untouched. No one graffitied it. And they got another. They got not John Lennon, Vladimir Lenin. You remember? You know, the communist.
Oh my gosh! Like,
and he's in the park.
There's no Lenin
in Seattle. There's a park with his statue there. No one's touched it, so it's like they're not touching the evil statue. So what's next?
Right.
They're gonna like blood-ridden Jesus. I think they nailed one of the Teddy Roosevelt's. There was a statue. Did you see that? It looks like someone threw blood on it or something.
That was pretty horrible. That's really horrible.
But that's it. It's totally upside down. Evil's good, and good is now evil. Oh, I get it. You know, like the big switch with the Democrats switching into Republicans. Oh yeah, now the Republicans are all, pro-slavery and stuff. I mean, don't listen to it. It's evil is as evil does. There's good Democrats. There's good Republicans. There's good, and evil ones on both sides. You got to look for their fruits. And that's what it comes down to. And not only comes down to that, we want to ask... I am Dr. Freud's therapy ball. Please have a seat.
Oh, merciful flippin' heavens. I want a bow and arrow for the Van Halen belt so I can go...
Okay. Let's see what Dr. Freud says. And he says... I don't date patients. Oh my gosh. Did somebody ever ask him that? I am Dr. Freud's therapy ball. Please have a seat. Well, that's fortunately for you, ladies and germs out there, as Milton Berle would say. The end of our news segment. And as usual, somehow, no matter how much news I have or how little, we seem to make it last for 45 minutes.
Which is really, really good because it allows us to segue into other things. Like, I'm sure, Michael, what's going on out there with the forest fires? And are they any closer to finding the group of people who started these? Because there's a lot of rumors in the wind. Have you heard anything?
There's a lot of rumors, but we haven't heard who started them. They're under containment now, but it's looked like a nuclear war happened out there. Some of these places, towns are just gone. From what I understand, the fire was with the wind spread at about 40 miles an hour. So that's how fast the flames are coming in.
That's horrific.
Yeah, so you got in your car and left, and your house is just gone.
Oh my gosh!
Can you see that on horizon? At least at some point in the recent history of this fire, could you see this horizon of glow, or you get on a higher point on a hill and you can see this going on in a distance? It sounds pretty menacing, like looking at the sunset, if it was melting the earth.
Yeah, we were just covered in smoke. We couldn't see anything because it was, the wind was blowing it our way. So when we were in the fires, we were just, the air quality was horrible. And a lot of people with asthma and stuff couldn't breathe it. It was like breathing just smoky fire all day for the past couple of weeks. It finally cleared out after a rainfall about a couple of days ago.
Wow, thank God. Yeah, pray for rain. Talk about that.
You're right.
Totally.
When we come back from my break in 10 minutes, we'll post the call-in number, or I don't know, we could put it up now. I don't have it in front of me, so I'd have to add it.
Oh, okay. The call-in number, folks, is 417-213-5599. Now, that's if Ken gave me the actual right call-in number, because...
Oh, wait, actually... Which one are you looking at?
Thank you.
It's on your computer monitor.
I hope that's it. 417.
No, it's 573.
See? What did I tell you?
Yeah.
What did I tell you? I'm good at clocking. Where's my bloody frying pan?
Okay, I'm putting it in right here. So.
Goodness gracious.
You just gave the number from my dentist.
Well, at least they won't have to worry about empty cavities, baby, and get their cavities checked.
That's the idea. We don't want them to worry about cavities.
Let's go with the number again so we can have fun with people.
Okay, it's on the screen now. There.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, there it is. 573-990-1333. So it's We've got a rollover question, guys. So I really want to talk about this one real quick, okay?
Yes, do it.
Now we had somebody else just before we get. So if anybody wants to call in, just understand you're going to kind of like be put on hold for a second. We'll get to your question. We'll let you give your question. Then we're going to say goodbye. We love you, and we're going to get to it because I want to make sure we can get everybody in. We've got so many wonderful Ask a Demonologist questions tonight. So Michael, Mickey Mouse ears on. Come on. All right. First of all, this is a two-part question. All right. Somebody was asking about something, and a number of people gave her the answer, but I think this bears a little bit of witness here. One, can an object like can my coffee cup, can this coffee cup, especially if it's an old coffee cup and I got it like let's say in a resale shop at a real estate sale, or you know how they have these fabulous auctions where you go there and you buy like boxes of stuff, can an object be cursed on purpose? And also, can you be cursed from buying a used old mirror? So let's do about the object being cursed first, and we'll talk about mirrors. Okay.
Okay. Object curse. Well, we always analyze the 5 W's that the reporters in the old days.
Wild, weird, Willie. And
wild and weird stuff. Don't notice the 5 Carsons. No, that's right.
Wonderful and wiggly.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been playing with fish too long today, kids.
That was a
in the pond.
Kind of a rule of thumb, the 5 W's, but also person, place, or thing, which you used to hear in the old Schoolhouse Rock or whatever. What do they call it? But person, place, or thing. And one of the things we try to determine when we make our calls is that's in your book too, right? The first stage of paranormal investigations, the one that's on the upper corner of the screen called Haunted Investigations. We go over that a little bit in there. Person, place, or thing. Because sometimes it could be one, some kind, I don't know, just in a rare case, it could be all 3. But these are cursed objects. So let me give you an example. Like, there's been rosaries that have been prayed by somebody for years and years. And a rosary fresh out of the factory or from Farah's nice, box of handmade rosaries, for example.
And I even share chocolate when you get something from me.
Little side note.
Not cheese, but chocolate.
If she hadn't prayed with it, it has nothing on it. In other words, but the person who's prayed on it actually put something positive. So it's going to actually be a sacramental that's somewhat blessed, not blessed by a priest officially or exorcised. It is now imbued, sort of in a way you get in proximity effect to uranium, and you'll start getting the effects of sickness and so forth. And well, the opposite happens too. If I go into the Blessed Sacrament or I receive communion or holy water, when one thing touches the other, we end up with the same thing for the opposite effect too. So let's say furniture was in a house that they practice Satanism in. We find that even the furniture is tainted, not necessarily the object of, we'll just say profane usage or something used in a ritual, like somebody gets a hold of a dagger or they get a hold of the table. Or what do they do with these things when they dismount and say, oh, we're not making enough money in our satanic church, so we're just going to have to disband and tear down the church. Or the cops are coming, hurry up and destroy everything. Where does it all go? Does it go in the dumpster and then some, person who's looking for antiques go, oh, this is kind of cool, I like the face on there, and then takes it home? Well, I mean, obviously the things that are used directly in a ritual are going to be more evil. Like the consecrated host versus the chalice. That the consecrated host obviously is going to be more. So what I'm getting at, I think you too will add the rest of it too. I'm talking about from the positive side, so very much it can happen in negative, right? So, Farah, do you want to, Michael?
It's Michael's turn.
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Well, I know a classic example I run into this with, which is very simple, is like when I have missionary families come back, like from Africa or something like that, and they brought back their kids these cool African masks, wooden ones that are carved, and all of a sudden the kid starts having nightmares or weird stuff's moving in his room. and we'll go do a walkthrough in the house, and the Holy Spirit will direct us like, "What's under your bed?" "Oh, I had this African mask or something my dad brought me." "Okay, well that thing was prayed over and blessed over by a witch doctor somewhere, right?" That's the simplest form of a tainted object you could bring into your house with activity starting from it.
And you wouldn't even be aware of it.
Wouldn't be aware of it.
You know, that's something I saw when I traveled, to the islands and lower South America and Mexico. A lot of people, they get off these cruise ships and they wander the beaches. And people, and this goes back to somebody that I know that specifically exported items out of America to a South American country that had satanic curses that were carved into the base of them. Well, these people on the beach, they need to make a living, okay? You don't know what you're like walking up and getting. And whatever they're putting on their blanket, it might look shiny, sparkly, and new, but you don't know where it's been. You don't know what they did with it. And I think that's really tough because as souvenirs go, you want something authentic looking. You want something that looks like it was actually made for ritual or it's part of history. I think that's a big thing that you see a lot of people when they go overseas. They want a piece of where they went to remember the experience, not knowing that sometimes it's better to err and get a postcard. Get a postcard. I think anyway.
Yeah, there was a guy on the phone today I talked to, without giving too much detail. Mm-hmm. And he was making mention of this one lady who's going under temporary possession, where you have times where they seem normal and other times it just steps in. She had a couple statues from Peru. One was a Saint Michael and one was some saint. You can't trust those, especially since because of voodoo, does their thing that goes beyond honor and veneration and becomes idol worship, and chickens are sacrificed in front of these statues. They turn it into that. You don't know, what they used before today. Are they selling you one of their family heirlooms? So I said, well, did you notice that she acts negatively in the presence of it? Because in some of these cases, like an infestation, they turn the statue of Saint Teresa around, facing the wall, and then every morning the person would get up, and they would have to turn it back facing outward. And then they'd get up, the next morning, and then it's facing the wall again overnight. Sometime they never caught it, of course, doing that, but they kept doing that. So I said, is anything, happening in the statue? Do they have a problem when they start acting as though they're, pardon expression, under the influence? Not like it's alcohol. But they didn't. So I said, well, then you got nothing to lose. But then again, the psychological, maybe she finds some sort of spiritual enlightenment or positive out of it. Then we have to be concerned that the only thing that's really helping to keep her faith energized by Saint Michael. So it's hard to say sometimes on that. But you never know when it comes from a foreign land that something might have a curse on it. Purposely someone putting something evil on it to cause a demonic attachment. But on the object thing, that can go beyond many levels too, besides the proximity effect and purposeful. That if it belongs to a person who passed away, Farah, you're familiar with that, as some of these cases we said, it came from a grandmother, and whether they're a practitioner of the dark arts or something like that, and it makes a difference sometimes who the person was who used to own it. And it was an antique plate in some case that me and Farah were working on. And it seemed to have been bring like poltergeist-like activity, if I remember that detail correctly without looking at the case file.
Well, let's talk about a difference here that, we have an outline in the last book, but it will be outlined in the next book. When we're talking about a cursed object, like, Mike and I were talking about earlier, that, you can go to these foreign countries and you can pick up these fabulous looking masks or even a beautiful, handmade woven rug that you don't know that was specifically made for an altar of sacrifice, of sacrificing animals, to one of their, a Sancta Mortis, one of their demons or something. You don't know if the mask if it's a death mask, that you put it on somebody that's been poisoned, so that you don't have to see them foaming at the mouth. You don't know what you've got, okay? So let's just put that out there first. Yeah. Now, you have a cursed object. All right? This is different. There is a difference between a human saying, I love this lipstick, and they say, you know what? I don't want anybody to have it. I don't want to leave this to anybody. I want everybody to know, should anybody touch this lipstick, I hope they develop boils. I curse anybody that touches. So, I hide it, stash it away somewhere, and then I move out of the house and leave my lipstick, and somebody finds it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful color. They're drawn to it. Supernaturally drawn to oh my gosh, I got to try this. I got to put this on. And they put it on, and it's like they start itching. And the itch won't go away, and they start. How would you associate that that's a cursed lipstick? You really wouldn't. You would think that, I have an allergy, something like that. That's a human curse. Humans curse objects too, folks.
Yeah.
The difference is that when a human curses an object, it's a little bit different from a demonic attachment, and shall I say a tribe or a specific demonic entity loves, the demonic entity loves this, and anybody that comes near it, he repels them in some way, shape, or form. There's a little bit of difference. Not much, but Ken, you want to talk about that a little bit more? Because I know we spoke about this.
Yeah, on the intention or not, evil wishes, evil desires, hereditary seals, snares, traps, lies, obstacles, deceptions, aversions. And when you do the breaking curses prayer, there's a long list in there, and because it can come in a variety of ways. When the wizard or the witch on these statues of dark magic, for example, they brag about being able to just will it with their mind. In other words, evil wishes, evil desires, those are with your mind. The evil desires, it's in your heart. And there's been cases where the aunt was jealous that she was fertile. She was never able to have a child, and she didn't even find a man who stayed with her, who divorced her eventually. So her sister, extremely jealous, she cursed her. And it wasn't directly like, I'm going to do a spell, like some old Walt Disney thing. It was the other way. And we kind of, they knew somehow the person seemed to have issue with it. Didn't apologize or anything like that, didn't show up for the shower, those kind of things. And then it became evident, and breaking curses prayers totally stopped all this stuff. In other cases, the baby had birth defects, and that's sad, or died. But it's very clear. And that's just from third-party case studies. You can also get this from, and instead of just personal experiences and cases. And so I think the evidence is clear. But the theology is there, too.
Yes.
And Moses said once that we curse ourselves when we sin. So if we sin against others, we are, cursing others to some degree when we put that upon them. Look at the things that you can do that can affect their life. You're in divorce, or something more serious as murder, or lies. The way lies can spread and grow and ruin reputations. They can sabotage. It's top of the hour time.
Yeah, and I definitely want Michael to check in. So, Michael, don't lose that brain cell on the stardust of your Van Halen experience tonight.
Right on.
Come back with all your mercurial rainbows in gear.
Real Deals will be back after about 4 minutes.
Yes, 4 minutes. Get your cheese, walk your dog, and don't go anywhere, because guess what? The Real Deals, starring Michael Norton on the Van Halen belt, will be right back. Are you looking for something special to remind you what a mystical experience prayer can be? Are you looking for something beautiful to hang in your car for protection? Try Prayers by the Bead. You'll find a variety of original, one-of-a-kind Anglican prayer beads, Lutheran, Methodist, Catholic prayer beads that are made to your specification using our materials or your materials made to order in just about any design that inspires you to get prayed right up.
Farah has about over 100 in her inventory pre-made, and guys, yes, there's plenty of rosaries and designs for you, so to give to your father or for yourself for your own prayer life.
We have a variety of exorcism medals, including the St. Benedict cross, beads, anything for your spiritual warfare needs. So, if you'd like some more information, find my page on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
www.etsy.com/shop/FarahRose.
Or on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
This is Kenneth Deel along with my wife, Farah Rose Deel, and we're going to talk to you real quick about our books. So we have 5 books available right now and 1 on deck. The books are the Catholic Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and the Christian Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and that's for all denominations. While we also have the Hauntings Self-Help Guidebook.
Any and all of these books are going to help direct you to not just the natural causes, prevention, prayers to assist you, to keep you and your family protected.
Yes, real solutions done by real people in the field. And we're sharing our knowledge and information to help you help yourself, or help a friend or a client if you're in the field yourself.
www.swordsofstmichael.org or
www.catholicdemonologist.com. You can buy the books direct and get them personally signed. Brought to you by Korg Triton. A little bit of an old keyboard, but still killer. And that's all the music tonight, by the way, is done by Korg Triton. The workstation, they came out in, 2006? I don't remember anymore. But I love that keyboard. So it's royalty free. So you can't demonetize me on that there, YouTube or Facebook. You can't pull it because, I'm playing copyrighted music. Yeah, it's annoying, People get carried away with stuff like that. But welcome back to the second half. I'm going to put the number up again in just a moment. Actually, you know what? I posted the wrong number. I posted our Haunted Helpline number earlier. Make sure I didn't get any calls here. No, I did not. That's a good thing. That's around the house. I cannot believe I did that. So where's my... I need that phone number. Is that right here? No, it's not. There it is. Okay, here it is. I got it. It's right here. Oh, you know what? Farah was right. Oh, my gosh. I kept telling her, no, it's not 417. It's... Yeah, see, I've this time of the year, I'm just a little off. Okay, here it comes, ladies and germs. 417-213. I'm producing the show tonight. Deb is off. She's off dipping her tootsies in the sandals and the toes of the shows or whatever it is. She's having fun, and so are we, though. Here we go. So the number for calling is 417-213-5599. It's posted right now. So, but if you're in chat, or if you're in the comments on Facebook, go ahead and post your questions in there. We're going to look at the ones that are on Demonology Today, the Real Deals group that's on Facebook, and also look on our personal page of Kenneth and Farah Rose Deel. And we'll bring those questions up, too, so the people that couldn't make it tonight posted in there. All right, so moving along, Michael, I think I'd like to hear your comment on that. We're talking about haunted objects. I hope you didn't forget.
Cursed
Cursed objects. Mm-hmm.
Human cursed and otherwise.
What say you, Michael?
What say you? Remember, too, we have the power to speak curses because, like, a lot of things are spiritual. We can make proclamations in the spiritual realm, like we do with spiritual warfare. We can also make blessings. We can also make curses. So, like Farah said, we can curse something. I mean, I've dealt a lot of that stuff, too. When next door neighbors got into a fight, and this guy in their house, well, I curse you to death, and walk off. Well, the spirit realm, the bad guys will take run with that. Oh, yeah, that's a curse, man. We can run with this thing. Mm-hmm. So, and objects, it can happen just as well, too. It's kind of interesting how the infestations will happen. You can get a tainted object, for instance, like if you ever go to like a was it the antique store?
Yes.
Walk the antique store, and just let your discernment go wild in it. You could find tainted jewelry and know it was given in through a love affair or something weird or strange. You just feel the nasty stuff coming off some of this antique stuff. So that's kind of a little discernment exercise you can do, is walk through the antique shop and feel it. Or like one time, I was walking through one antique store and I got pulled to the back of the store, like off to the right, like just I was following my sensory, and of course it took me right to the Nazi memorabilia section. I go, this
gosh.
right?
That's
real
crazy.
Stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it does get tainted. That was just tainted from war, or whatever it went through, right? So it's just
sad.
Environmental. So yeah, you can't get tainted objects. So beware of what you buy at these places and bring home.
Well, Michael, I was hoping, you got to polish off your stardust there, my brother. I was hoping you would say, what we bind on earth, we bind in heaven. What we loose on earth, we loose in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
use your authority and make it leave. Just stand on that.
Yeah, and I said that in the first book. I wrote in there that our words are binding. Be careful what you wish for, what you say. There is the famous case that our friend Ralph Sarchi actually worked on, and with the Warrens, I think Bishop McKenna did the exorcism, and his name was Frenchie. It was in a book called Satan's Harvest, and in there, my mother read that one as well. It's a sad story, and it's not so dramatic. You're not going to read it and go, oh boy, this is really good horror. No, it's about this kid. He's now a man. His father used to curse at him. He got an abusive father. He used to curse him.
Horrible.
When you say GD and, these other things, it literally means cursing. It's not just curse words or, bad words. You know what I mean? Totally. The demon told Father, I guess it was McKenna, like I said, that why are you here? A lot of times we extract the information. The Exorcist particularly, we don't go onto that plateau very often. Why are you here? Father put me here when he cursed him as when he was a child. And this information makes a big difference. It also helps them to be able to deal with some sort of we'll say pastoral care and some psychological counseling with their priest or some special assign, you know what I mean? That's very forthcoming and revealing, isn't it, Farah?
Completely, honey.
I put the proper phone number up, and I apologize.
We're good. We have another question though I've got to get to, because this is definitely in line with what we're talking about with their cursed objects and haunted objects and that sort of thing. And a question from our Facebook thread, which I apologize, I'm not able to get them right now. We have had a cable person out 3 times this week to make sure that our cable's connected. It's connected to the pole. I'm having a difficulty with my internet, so I'm not able to respond like I ought to, folks, and I can't get the questions.
I just noticed that.
So,
we're having bad connections. I didn't notice.
I sure hope that you guys are okay getting our broadcast, but I've completely lost everything, no connection to chat or anything. So, I'm going to go with this anyway. Somebody wants to know, our dear Amy actually, if you have these objects in the house, what kind of common objects would you find in an average household? Just let's say you go and visit somebody and you walk around. What kind of common objects might you expect that could be possibly cursed? And let's go around and talk about this in depth, because we did touch on the antique store thing, but there's so many other things that we could go over, and so many other scenarios. And just thinking back from cases alone, let's pick a couple of these out and talk a little bit about the cases and how it revolved around this type of object, so that people can get an idea of what we're talking about and what we've experienced. You don't need to worry, folks. You really don't. You just just be very mindful of what you touch, what you bring home, and bless it when you get it home. But so let's talk about this. Ken, Mike, who wants to start?
Again, on cursed objects, Mike, go ahead and start on that.
The question is, quote unquote, if I'm going to walk through a house, what kind of objects, what kind of common objects, what might you expect to be cursed?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, some objects have it built in already. You cannot get a book of Satanism, even if excerpts are in a minister, priest, and exorcist book. If you have the text excerpts in there, those words are cursed, and you might be visited that night. It happened to me in 1997. I was reading a book that was written by a minister of another denomination, and he was talking about the evils of Satanism. And a large part of it, he was quoting the book of Satanism and then commenting on it. Well, guess what? I woke up and I saw the what we call the Black Sabbath, hooded specter with red eyes. For some reason, I got to send an Avon lady out to, just because you're checking out the lipstick, It was a red eye spirit. It was on the side of my bed. I didn't get sleep paralysis. I wore a St. Benedict medal, and it was 1997 still. But they come and check you out. You can't do that stuff.
Yes.
Don't read stuff because you feel like you need to have a diverse knowledge of all religions and learn Satanism through and through. Mike,
So
you didn't.
true.
You haven't read Satanism to such a degree that
No.
Not at all.
it's like you learned something.
He doesn't need it.
No, I pick it up through the ministry time. That's where I get my information from.
Yeah.
People go, you must know experts about symbols and stuff. And I've seen symbols by what was drawn and what's shown, but I don't go and research it. In fact, I have stuff people gave me. They wrote books on this is how I was programmed. I never read it because every time I open to read it, same thing, right? Discernment. You don't need this.
No.
Do not read this. And I set it down. But regarding the question, how do you know when you walk through a house? That's a lot of stuff we do sometimes. We go bless a house. Just you don't know what you're looking for. Like ask the Holy Spirit. I'm going to submit to you when I go into this house. Please show me what's tainted or what's wrong. It could be some minor stuff you don't know. I mean, like times we've homed into a bookshelf where we found like a Jehovah Witnesses book on there, or even a Freemason book. It's just simple stuff like that. You never know what you're looking for, and you still start learning your discernment, and God will show you what's wrong. He could lead you to some little jewelry container or something in the house, or just something you don't know. You never know what He's going to lead you to.
That's true.
That's why I take a team, because a lot of times we'll home in on the same thing.
Yeah.
Excellent, Mike. And that's what people need to know, is that they do have the ability. If they just met somebody, people can just, when you go into a home, if something's bothering you spiritually, if your throat is hurting, if you are feeling, shall I say, if you're feeling unease, if you're feeling pressured, if your throat locks up, your stomach, and that's just not, it shouldn't be happening, then ask the Holy Spirit, say, all right, guardian angel, help me out. Is there something going on? If there's something here that I don't need to be exposed to. And I'm not telling you you should be afraid, but if there's something there that you're not comfortable around, you need to leave the home right away. Yeah. There's no reason to stay. And if you're asking, if the question was more towards, well, I've got a house, I've got a lot of stuff my aunt gave me, my uncle gave me, and this sort of thing, how do I even know I've got a cursed object in my house? You would know. You would know if you tried to get rid of it, if somebody tried to take it from you, you would know. And the same sort of thing, you would get physical symptoms. So it's...
Well, that is, yeah, I guess there is a lot more on this than initially. That's a good question. Because there seems like a lot of dimensions of answers that I didn't really think about until it's like been, presented in one question that anybody can answer. But everybody's going to have a different answer on that because of personal experiences and all that kind of thing.
Right.
But I was mentioning occult objects, and that's one of them. And then you're talking about sometimes when you pick up something and you just feel icky.
Yes,
and if you didn't
horrible.
really think of it on a supernatural level or anything, or even empathetic or something, that you just think, well, I know my uncle died and he owned it. Maybe I'm just reacting to some emotional pre-canned state or whatever. Besides the obvious,
Yes.
if you pick something up and you're not, why does this make me feel bad? You don't even have to ask the question, where did it come from? Sometimes you should just get rid of it temporarily, at least if it's expensive, an antique, or it's just like some family heirloom. Sometimes we don't even know what our own parents have done until they died, and you find some discovery,
Absolutely. That's the crazy thing about it. And curse objects, they're not that common. You're not going to go to every single store and find a cursed object. Obsessed items that you might find in just about every other corner, that it's an invitation, because as it was like, I watched this fabulous video today, or actually it was 2 days ago, about the right use of something. And, you know, as Mike was saying earlier, when something is used out of right order, let's just say, you know, you can talk about a chair. You know, when you use a chair to sit, you're using it for the proper use. When you set a cup on the chair, you're using it for your own personal intentions. You're not using it for what it was intended for, but that's not a bad thing. Now, if you were to take that chair and bust a window out, that is an abuse of the item, because it's not only out of what the chair was designed for, but it's possible destruction, and destruction of something else makes it illicit and out of right order. So, as Mike was saying, when you have, let's say, a jewelry box, you know, the big thing was, remember the Dybbuk's box? Everybody loved the Dybbuk's box.
Yeah.
The whole myth. Well, you know, a jewelry box can be used for, you know, let's just say you have a bunch of friends and they all go out and they go worship, you know, any number of these named entities, and they bring rats or they bring rabbits or they bring pets from the neighborhood, and they carve them up, they torture them, whatever they do to them. Sorry, Jesus, I didn't want to get so graphic, but whatever they do to them, people take home souvenirs, like a killer takes home a souvenir.
Yeah.
And they put it in jewelry boxes. Or, you know, they have, like, you know, I have a place where, you know, I have some icons of you know, angels, saints, God, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I love beauty, and it inspires me, not because I worship it. Where they, on the other hand, they don't admire the beauty of a thing, that they take this object from the misuse and the satanic seal that they've made. They take it as a reminder and a power draw to place in their home so that it will attract more power. That's the difference here, folks. The big difference. That this is what curses it. Because when somebody's beaten, when somebody's murdered, when somebody's molested, that a draws. That's a draw right there. What happened there.
Oh, good point.
It is, and
excellent.
That curses. Let's just say the blanket, that can curse the wheelchair, and these things, they may still exist or may be passed on, and they carry this imprint of the demons that were there when the incident happened. So those will follow specific objects. Does that make sense, you guys?
Oh, that's great. The hotel case that I worked on in 2007 in St. Louis, they were telling me the maids and stuff, every once in a while we'll see a shadow come out of that room, and then hotel guests who stay in that room will tell the front desk, I had a rough night's sleep. I had these nightmares about suicide, and I've been depressed, and I never had that before, and this has been going on over a few years. And it turns out, and that was part of the backstory, that there was somebody who committed suicide in there. And I don't remember if they had to clean it up. That might be another case. But what it is you exactly said right. And that was, you know, more of a, almost kind of like a, kind of science or metaphysical way of putting it. Yeah, the imprint is there. And we got to remember that, you know, these kind of sins, child molestation, all that kind of stuff is going to be there. And that's the kind of spirit that has, and I was making occult references, but yeah, we got to remember about those things, all those things that draw demons, and the occult is only one thing. Those kind of occult things. And so there's a variety of ways an object can be cursed, just as a person can, and become tainted, become profane objects, not necessarily because they're designed to be.
Precisely.
Someone said one time about the Ouija board, and I will disagree with Ed Warren, that he said the board is nothing in itself. It's just a piece of pressed wood with a planchet and a lettered sticker. I forgot I described it. It's in the Demonologist book. That's what he says.
I disagree
No, I'm
with
sorry,
that.
Ed. Yeah.
I totally disagree with that.
I disagree with that because it was made as a profane object. It was made for spirit contact. And
Correct, yeah.
the way demons work is that the board probably has a demon assigned to it.
We are specifically
By
prohibited
default.
from talking and hanging out with spirits, okay?
Thank you.
So
like a tarot card
you
pack.
can't
automatically has one
say
too.
that, well, geez, just because I painted this table for you with a spirit symbols doesn't mean that it's bad. No, it was made with the intention for contact and divination, which is outside of what is natural. So
don't feel bad, folks, because we buy stuff at thrift stores all the time.
All the time.
And music equipment and so forth. Who knows? Musicians aren't the cleanest people in the world. They're most Christian.
I have a crazy story about an antique store.
You got a crazy story about what? A keyboard?
Yeah. A crazy story about an antique store.
Oh, an antique store.
One of the girls I work with who's a survivor, she went to a local antique store.
Yeah.
And a survivor from ritual abuse, and she went with another friend, and they were staring in a curio cabinet, and this little jar was just vibrating like crazy.
Oh, my.
Oh.
They prayed to bind it, and it stopped, and they turned around and walked out.
Oh, my gosh. That was smart. That was very smart.
And it's so simple, too. It's like sometimes when we say it's a thing, I've been surprised several times. In the case I've told several times, not to be redundant, folks, and you'll be like, I don't hear that story before. And that's how it works. Was the Ouija board that was perched atop of the shelf wasn't found until after they realized that the youngest son, then the older son, he made fun of the youngest son for waking up and having nightmares of the man standing in the closet doorway. He saw it, and then they left the room vacant, and Aunt Bunny comes over, or whatever her name was. I can't remember, and she experiences it. So an initial sweep, no one found nothing. So then they're cleaning the room, and on the steps, and a step ladder, and then they find that there's a piece of masonite upside down on that shelf. Just not in the box, no planchette, and there's a Ouija board in there. So what do we do with that? Get rid of it. Just spray paint over it, chuck it in the trash can. Don't touch it with your hands. Wash your hands with holy water. Say breaking curses, prayers. Because, I'm thinking you're on to something, that kind of thing. And it was gone. And guess what? So was that room. I don't know if that little boy moved back in or not.
So, Ken, what about the people that use the Ouija board, though? What do you recommend for them?
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, then they got
before it's destroyed,
That's I guess one question bears another, doesn't it?
It really does.
Right? That was part of it,
Now they've cursed themselves, too.
So you have to pray and repent from using that board as a fetish, and then you can go destroy it.
Remember when we talk person, place, or thing? We treat things different than we do people, but sometimes you end up doing the same prayers to some degree. But now that you're talking about a person that has cursed himself, they have to do breaking curses prayers. They have to do renunciation prayers, not necessarily in that order, but it doesn't matter so much. But they do have to make restitution. And which is confession for us Catholics, and in addition, restitution is also that you have to make some sort of offering. Say, now I'll do this. If
you're a Christian, it's called justice. Justice must be repaid. It must be repaid.
And if you did it innocently, I don't know if that happens so much. Like one of the things I noticed since early 2000 is that Ouija boards have been known to have a taboo on them, and people still ignore it and say, I've used them for 23 years.
It's no big deal. I played with it for 20 years and nothing happened.
If Deb was here tonight, she would say...
Oh, she'd be screaming about it.
Yeah?
Right?
How old was she? She said...
Oh, she was a teenager. She was like 15.
She was really young, and then she was 23, and then her brother gets possessed, and they experienced the worst haunting.
She was really young. She was playing with witchcraft and Ouija boards, and nobody told her. She was a Catholic kid. Everybody was like playing with it in high school. She didn't really think anything of it.
She thought she was just
and then, bam, her brother got
force
taken
of
down.
nature or whatever,
That brings you guys. This brings me to one of the most important points, which also isn't in our books. It probably should be in our books, and it's probably in your book, Michael. Is that when you pick up an item to use, let's say it's a crystal ball for reading, it's a Ouija board for doing whatever. But let's say you buy a little bag of rune stones and you want to throw them just like a gypsy reads tea leaves. And you want to call upon the spirits to please answer me, like the post I posted a couple days ago. Mike, okay, if you're here, can you please just text me already?
Right.
You're calling upon spirits that don't answer to God.
Right.
So what are they going to do? Now, let's just think logically, okay? Not like, oh, nothing's going to happen and they're not going to follow me home. All right, let's just leave the Christianity out of it that says, okay, you have the temptation under the third generation, which means you, your brother, your mother, you have just cursed them to be tempted by the same sin that you just cast out into heaven. People don't see this. They don't look in the looking glass and go, oh, how's that possible? I just picked up some rune stones and I just, did a couple of horoscopes or whatever with them. You've just let loose the hounds of hell to chase the people in your family and say, hey, why don't you pick this up? Why don't you pick that up? You've allowed temptation into their life where it was not allowed to beset them and drive them nuts anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think if people understood that, they would not ever even look twice at it. Good Lord. I'm also thinking that, and like I said, if you can leave the Christianity aside, and let's talk about a big pile of poo. Okay?
Right.
There's a big pile. Okay, I know. But everybody sees it on the sidewalk, okay? Usually you see it and you avoid it. But like if you're in a hurry and you're like riding your bike and you can't avoid it and you're like, oh, no, there's somebody walking right next to that pile of poo. I'm going to run right through it and I'm going to smash the poo all over him. You intentionally go step in it. What's going to happen? It's going to stick to you. And you think you're going to wash it off? Well, the smell might still be there. The infection that you don't see from bloodborne pathogens, germs, that's still there. That's what the demonic is, people. What you can't see will hurt you. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Anything to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, and it can be some time, too, if you bring something through a Ouija board. It may not be right away.
Exactly.
Maybe 5 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I so cursed? Why are bad things happening?
Exactly. Why is this going on
right?
in my life? I'm a good person. I tithe at my church. I donate my time to the big brothers, big sisters. I'm a really good person. What exactly? Why is this happening to me? That's a really good one.
And
so what about the new toys out now too?
Oh,
those are cursed as well, right? Between the EVPs and the microphones and
we try and explain that to people. It's like, you're walking such a fine line. If you attempt to catch, in old school we used to just set up a tape recorder and let it play, we'd let it play through, a series of prayers. And we'd let it play through when people were sleeping. That was the old school EVPs. We weren't exactly saying, hey, answer me, I want to hear you. We were listening for things that were out of the ordinary that we could have missed, such as underground water, such as creaky basements, creaky, anything that could be bothering people that we could pick up on the recording and say, hey, we know the problem is structural. It's not really ghosts or anything else they could think. So today, they have these wonderful things called, what is that, an ovilus that kind of like spits out all these words at you and says,
that's one
gobbledygook, eat your spook, So, you have an electronic voice box that is designed. Now, if I played the fan humming in it, would it pick up, eat chocolate? What would it play? How do I know? It is designed... I call it the paradiola of the techno world, folks. Because your eye wants to see a face in the smoke, that EVP thingy wants to give you what you want to hear.
Exactly.
That's the way I see it,
Michael. It works, Michael, like a random number generator, and it picks a memory location with the synthetic stored sounds, and some of them have 256, some 512, and I think even more now.
Oh, yes.
Which is how pinball machines work. When it hits bumper A, it's doing the Terminator.
That's a good point.
It's a Terminator machine, and bumper A actually has in that memory location. It triggers this sound like "no clothes clean right." And that's how it works with this obelisk. Well, is that how it's like I never got that right, but I know the technology but not the name.
Right.
It just does that, the random number generator, and it picks numbers, and there's been some really weird stuff with it, but you know what, a Ouija board by any other name is an Ouija board. It still uses,
it's still a spirit board.
There's people that ask people who are in there in these movies and TV shows, whatever, and they ask that, can you turn on the flashlight? Or in the old days, it was knock once for yes, twice for no. And poltergeist knockings were more popular back then because they gave it permission to manifest at that type of manifestation. Does that make sense? What I mean there is that they don't have a legal right to all of the physical aspects of this world. They only get the legal right for the physical manifestations that we give them permission to. So in the old days, if you say knock once, yes, twice for no, you gave it manifestation for noise, especially knocking. And what did they hear in those houses? Knocking, slamming, and all that other stuff. You guys got to think about this stuff. I mean, everybody out there. It is not so, sometimes it's gray shades. Other times it's black and white. Sometimes it's a combination of both. That's for sure.
Right.
Keep the questions coming, 417-213-5599. You can actually call into the show, and we'll see you. We'll put you on live, get your question, and then we'll answer it. And it's Ask a Demonologist, and this is one of several as we do these on a regular basis. You know why? Because there's thousands of questions that you can ask, and they're very important. Anything about ghosts or demons that will hit.
Exactly. There's so many things we can talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about the other part of the question, you guys. We got to get to it. Oh, my gosh. I'm sure I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about with scrying mirrors. The other part of the question was, yeah, exactly. Let's talk about this, because I think this is an important topic we haven't covered yet on this show. It says, can you be cursed from a used mirror? Mike, take it away. And then,
that's right. Thank you.
That's right. We forgot that question. So let Mike answer it, and then we'll go ahead and polish off some other things that have happened to us. If you want, Michael, talk about cases and stuff, because this is very popular. People going, hey, mirror, mirror, talk back to me.
I got the crazy stories. I work with the Satan survivors. Every one now in a while, we're doing a session. Somebody goes, I'm feeling like I'm dizzy, like I'm in a fun house. And here we go. What are you seeing? Well, it's like I'm in a fun house of weird mirrors. And I go, okay, we're going into scrying now, where they have Satan's always looking for a false interpretation of infinity, because he can't create one. And the mirror is a classic way he could do this. So a lot of times we'll have these weird parts to rituals are trapped in scrying mirrors, and we have to go through and break the rituals off of them. So I've seen human parts trapped that way, which I don't clearly understand, but I also know they have spirits trapped in this as well. So yes, it is. It's crazy stuff.
He said scrying a little bit. Some people aren't familiar with that, but there's a story again. I bring up the Demonologist, but it's because this is kind of a common, more universal. There's a story in there about scrying.
Yes.
And it is an old art. And Farah, I want you to fill people in what they're getting into to not try, but the detail of it. Speculum, scrying, things to do with the mirror in itself, is because it's under the significance of a mirror. Now, the only thing I'll tell you about a mirror before Farah starts on that to fill in that detail, I think it's important, is that I wrote in the first book, the Catholic Demonologist Handbook, that demons' perspective of this world, on the lower level, the ones that aren't as high in their ranking and intelligence, it's almost like there is a perspective of judgment, according to what they see, and that they, you're like, okay, they're writing things backwards. Are they being an anarchist? There's evidence, and are they speaking backwards because they're being, clever, or they're anarchists? No, it seems as though that world or dimension is actually a mirror, and when they cross over, they're still in this backwards universe. And what's the opposite of this, world? You could say evil. The pure evil would be backwards. A mirror opposite. Sounds kind of metaphysical almost, doesn't it?
Totally.
Makes you think, but it's not theological, so it just so many schools of thought things. Just based on accounts, experiences, case studies, it's amazing the things that you come up with that might be something chronicled later on, by the next, great writer, if we have another Thomas Aquinas, for example, or the real deals, who knows, or the Michael Norton.
Please, I'm not sticking that hat on myself. I'm too dumb.
God, saintlyhood. It's like
seriously, I have so much to learn. He's being such a snarky marky. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Just for a writer, not saintly like a.
No, let me go off on this topic for a second, you guys, and I want you guys to chime in after I finish, because I'm going to try and keep it short. My experience with scrying in mirrors is this, okay? As I was speaking of earlier, folks, when you have an event, an offering, a sacrifice, a molestation, a murder, this is an opportunity for the level of emotions and passions in a human being to shout, to literally scream to the universe, for angels to assist, demons to assist. When you are, when you have somebody that has body-used mirror, when people use mirrors for scrying purposes, the purposes are usually very dark. And they're looking into a mirror, and basically what they're doing is they're taking all their passion, all their hatred, all their rage, all their desire, and they're screaming to the universe to get a reaction. And we're talking a level of passion that's not usually used with an Ouija board, with tarot cards, that sort of thing, because of the passion tied up with a person's image or with the desire of something that's beyond them. I've seen worse curses, I have seen worse activities with mirrors than I have spirit boards that people kind of write up and they glue on wood. Why this is, I don't know. And probably, I think it has something to do with God's hierarchy of demons and the scrying, because the pride involved. And these mirrors are, shall we say, they're beautiful objects.
Yeah.
They're ornate. They hold places in a home that catches everything and everyone. If you can just think of all the things that you do in a mirror, you groom yourself constantly. You talk to yourself, whether you tell yourself you're ugly, oh my gosh, look at how great I look. Oh my gosh, doesn't somebody want... Think of the self-talk that is involved in a mirror. I mean, this was a big part of why, the entire movement of Martin Luther said, no icons, no idols, no mirrors. It was vanity. It was the vanity that basically brought people to look outside of God and say, I've got to have this, and I want this, and I'm going to get this any way I can. So what you're looking at is you're looking at a level of energy that is directed, whereas a majority of time an Ouija board is invitational. When you look at a person's will as directed as opposed to invitational, from my experience, that's a different level of problems with the demonic. And it's a much more intense one. It's the difference between waving sage and calling the angels in your tarot cards to...
Right.
Yeah, seriously, or to going in the woods and bleeding out an animal in a strange shape, marking the ground, and jamming sticks in the earth and screaming to the gods. That's the difference here, folks. We're talking serious intention as to kind of playing and dabbling.
Right.
So yeah, good. You know what I'm talking about, Michael.
Yeah.
So to me, when somebody says, oh my gosh, I had to take this mirror out of my house, I put it, in the garage, and I put a cover over it, I'm like, oh, thank God. How long have you had the mirror? Where did it come from? Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people can't trace the provenance of where a mirror came from. So it's better just to paint over it completely. Don't take any chances. Paint over it and have it absolutely destroyed. Put down, put on.
Yeah, don't break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't break it. There's
you
something
have to put it
symbolic
out of
about
commission.
that.
You
That's
have to put
probably
it
where
out
that
of complete
7-year bad luck
commission.
came from. And it's some of the folklore, like 7-year bad luck, you know where it comes from. But, we told people, we said, spray over it black.
Totally.
In Night Gallery, they did an episode where they painted over it, and then they scraped out the paint layer, and they found it with a portal. They went into some weird dinosaur universe or something. I don't know what it was in there. The rest of it was stupid. So,
I know.
like they were back then, But like I said, there's some things that don't let curiosity suck you into this stuff. If you're trying to do what we're doing, the fact is when you say that it's evil, you might try to give things like one of the big questions tonight, as we can go into a little bit, was Sage.
We might have to do a part 2 because we can't even get to half these questions tonight. Is that okay with you, Michael, if we do a part 2 next week?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's just so much. I mean, even in this scrying thing with the mirrors alone, people don't understand. No, you should not bring a mirror home unless it's blessed. And you know where it came from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's some, and that's true. The experiences with the mirrors have been, in a lot of cases.
I've had a number of them, too. We had a case, 2-3 years ago. It was really bad with mirrors.
And it's like with photographs, but it's like with white noise, but it's more. But it's part of it. And I think the senses and the eyes is a big important thing. Remember that we say it's in the eyes, one nun or a priest, I don't remember the old thing I heard about when I was a kid. The eyes are they're windows to the soul.
Right.
And you're looking at things and you're making eye contact. There's something very important and something very significant about that. And we got some questions that we have here, and they're on deck. But don't forget, you can still post them in real time, but we're pulling the questions that are actually from Kenneth and Farah Rose, our personal page that you can like, follow, friend. And right now we're broadcasting from our public page. And next time we'll post basically the forum in there saying, hey, ask a Demonologist questions right here, and we'll present them online. Tim Smith says, why does society want to believe every evil act is the cause of mental illness?
I wanted to see if Michael had anything to add about the scrying stuff before we finish that up.
No, that's pretty much it, because it would go deeper from there, because a lot of stuff I'm dealing with now, there's like an interdimensionality, and I don't want to sound too new agey, but there is with the spirit realm, and there's some sort of weird gateway stuff that they could position mirrors and do this gateway thing with.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that portal gateway stuff up with the mirrors either, because that definitely gets into the satanic aspect of it. Yeah,
exactly.
People don't need the curiosity. I agree.
So you don't have to put your feet in cold water and staring at a cat's eyes, right?
Right.
Right.
That's so weird when they get that stuff, and it does. Is it all they see? What most of the people do the occult for is the curiosity, and then you're surprised it works because you don't have to carve, and they don't know. I mean, by what we know, I would say, well, you didn't have to carve an idol, you didn't have to give homage to Satan or sign a contract. You just do this thing, and it's a manipulating spiritual, nature forces, or positive thinking. Remember Norman Vincent Peale? They get these things right to some degree, and Ralph called it chakra points, because that's a relational, other type of religion point. Like I use the word feng shui. Why did I rearrange my room when I was a kid and I stopped haunting experiences that I was being tormented by night terrors for several weeks? It doesn't make sense. I didn't do anything religious to the room. I was desperate. I'm just 8 or whatever years old, but it worked. So chakra points with Ralph, he's making a reference saying that demons do seem to stick on to a particular organ, and they infect it. They make your kidney hurt all the time on the left side. And when a demon's gone, they have a stabbing pain in that organ as a part of a sign of departure.
Yes.
Those type of things we pay attention to. We have references like that we can kind of cross-associate. Like St. Patrick when he was talking about the matriarchy or, the Queen of Heaven, so to relate to the Druids' goddess. And we're not doing that, to put Mary in a place that she shouldn't belong, but we're trying to find common ground, and St. Paul was good for that, too. Yeah, Speculum is really a nasty one now. I remember, and you know what, for you patrons out there who saw that episode called Love Curse of a Haunting, that one, there was a mirror involved with that one, and I told them to spray over it with black paint and see if you can, how do you dispose of that? Disarm the top part. So, was that in that episode even that she bound that into the mirror?
I don't think that that was actually detailed. How?
I don't think it was.
I don't think it was. She actually brought a
and he saw something in it when he was passing by.
A crystal wand, and actually brought and bound something into a mirror. That was really attractive.
Every once in a while, we get this rerun of the haunting episode called Love Curse, and that's with Lee and his wife. And that was part of the element. It
was just on again the other night.
Mm-hmm. They're playing it overseas, and it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We had another episode thing on deck, but we don't push that stuff. I mean, we have our ministry to do, to get out there, and that's not the way we do. But I guess it is a good way. We get some of the calls are from people who saw us on, and they're legitimate cases. Some are, questionable, we'll say the least. And that's one of the Ask a Demonologist questions you could say, too. We'll bring up the ones that the people give us, because we can talk on these topics all night.
Unfortunately.
Some of these are going to be shorter answers than others, but this is great, though. When does society want to believe that every evil act is the cause of mental illness? This is kind of a short answer, isn't it, Farah? Society wants to believe that every evil act is the cause of mental illness, when some are helped along by demons. Well, that's a person who knows what's really going on. You have to balance the mental with the spiritual. They are one.
Unfortunately, Michael's been able to do that in his ministry, is that he's been able to pack in these very talented people that understand both the spiritual warfare aspect of it and the balancing of the wearing down of the psyche in a human that creates a mental deficit over time. Demons will do that.
Yeah.
So you've got to treat a human holistically, completely.
Mike?
Yeah, you've got to get to the root of what's wrong, what's really wrong. Like I said, last thing I always look at is the demon. They could tell me I need a demon in an exorcism, and I just want to sit and hear what there's going on with them. And then you find out through their story or something, no, I don't think this is a demon going on, And I think you have some other issues going on. Maybe, multiple identity disorder, or you're bipolar, or maybe this stuff's going on in your mind. You're solving problems because you need to see a psychiatrist, be put on some sort of medication to slow your brain down. There's so many things we have to discern here before we get to the demon part. But, if they manifest right away, too, then boom, then you know. But you have to use discernment on manifestations as well. I've had parts manifest on me that called themselves demons, they weren't.
Yes.
My last touch base on this topic, because like I said, I think it has a short answer, is one of the things I noticed with you, Mike, is that you become, at least equally psychological as well, because we have to keep in mind, it's like the cases where they actually need the lithium that balance out and level the play field for depression, which is letting the demon in.
Yep.
And if you don't know that, then don't even call yourself demonologist. I mean, demonologist can mean study too, but does mineralogist mean study, Farah? You're a mineralogist, actually. She actually has, that by trade from college and so forth, and comes from her father too.
Yeah, gems and minerals.
But in that case, you have to know the mind and you have to know the spirit, both. And this is a perfect example of it, and it does take a lot. If we don't have any more questions, we're still answering ones from the.
We've got
Kenneth
4 minutes.
Rose.
Let's tie it up and give it a top of the hour and do a page 2. So.
We're going to return next week, and we're going to do Ask a Demonologist Part 2. And we'll post the board questions, basically. Put your questions up, and then we'll present them on the show. And we'll get them in early. We'll cut our news segment to one item, something really significant. That's kind of what we wanted to do anyway. We're doing the Fast Five, and we kind of dragged it over to make kind of a seamless transition. A little too seamless, I guess. I want to mention something. You know what? Tonight, we actually have really good quality coming from this building. It's going out, it's good quality. It's getting to Facebook, it's not good. And I'm watching the statistics, and I just checked the statistics from the server. Well, not the server, but the stream. And before it reaches Facebook, it's actually good. We have 175 megabits per second download, which is, the receiving, and upload is about 7. And Facebook should be able to do fine with 4, actually. Or 7 or 10, between there and there. But tonight it's acting like it did that one night. Not quite as bad. It used to go down to 0. It's going down to red on occasion, about 50% of the time. So I apologize if you have dropouts, lag, and that sort of thing. But Facebook is still working out their kinks. They're obviously not owned by Google, because they YouTube figured this stuff out. Google bought, so they figured it out, because, by association. So what do you think, Farah? Do you think we should just go ahead and do broadcast from our YouTube / The Real Deals? We'll post the links on all the pages that you're watching this video on now. I'm kind of tired. This is the second time out of 7 episodes that Facebook is not getting their crap right, if you pardon the expression. Oh, great, I just demonetized this. No, they will demonetize this. They'll do it anyway because we mentioned Vegas shooter, and they're trying to hide the facts. So. But don't be surprised if you find out that the next event is going to be broadcast live on YouTube, and you won't be watching on a Facebook live stream. You'll be watching it. Well, it'll be embedded on the Real Deals, www.Demonology Today and therealdeals.com pages, and you'll see an embedded video there, and you might see some more consistency and so forth. Maybe Facebook is still tweaking. I don't know what.
Good question.
That's the only thing. I don't see anything on our side.
Well,
here.
you know what? Let's not bore our listeners to death here tonight. I really,
no kidding.
really want to thank Michael Norton, M16 Ministries. They can find you at m16ministries.com. Michael Norton offers a variety of hope for people that have been through some of the horrors that can't even be spoken out loud in his ministry. Him and his wife work together to offer counseling, relief, and deliverance to many of those who are turned away from other of their avenues of hope. And Kenneth and I offer as a couple to do the same, as our ministry is detection and deliverance and removing the deception, not necessarily demonic people. So in our attempts to help you, remember that we're here to help you fight the good fight and win it right. Thank you so much for joining. And don't forget, come on back next Thursday night for another episode of The Real Deals. And I know Mike Norton isn't going too far, are you, Mike?
No, I'm not. We'll be here.
God bless you all. Have a wonderful night. Good night.
Thanks, Mike. God bless. Hello, this is Kenneth Deel and my wife, Farah Rose. Farah, this is something we get a lot of requests for, and people just don't know how to get a hold of us directly. By email, they would contact us at
help@swordsofstmichael.org or call us direct, 573-990-1333.
You can also text us using Facebook Messenger at Kenneth Farah Deel.
And we'll get back to you.
God bless.